All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for a few real people out there, just like you and just like me. So today, Freedom Day 2022. Finally, we get the new Journey album entitled Freedom. 15 tracks. Yep, holy crap, Batman. Gonna just throw it out there right away. You know, if it were 1981 again, and you asked me as a young lad, will Journey still be around in 2022? And what will they sound like? And I'm thinking there'll be a bunch of old geezers, or the world will be taken over by space aliens by 2022. Yeah, the world is being taken over, and I guess the space aliens are among us, but that's another video altogether. 15 songs, not really a bad song, although some people, again, just don't understand Let It Rain. And there's one other song that I would say might be a little less appealing to some of the hardcore Journey fans. But for those of us who understood what Journey was prior to Steve Perry and what they became after, this album essentially touches on every part of their career while still kind of marching forward and being unique and interesting and melodic. And yes, Journey ends up plagiarizing themselves in a few places, but in other places, they are essentially, paving new territory here. Paving new territory? Yeah, paving new territory. I'll go with that. So let's start off with track one. Yeah, I'm going to give you a song-by-song breakdown. This might get tedious. I'll try to be interesting, but if I'm not, then, watch for as long as you can, all right? Together We Run, first song on the record. Lyrically and musically, this celebrates everything about this band. As soon as I heard the words, as soon as I heard the melody, I'm thinking, yeah, you could have put this song on Escape or on Raised on Radio or Frontiers. This is just a great song. I'm thinking Jonathan Cain was writing a lot of lyrics for this record, and you have to give him a lot of credit because, again, these themes are important. They've been what Journey's been about since the Jonathan Cain, Steve Perry era. Faith in the Heartland, all those sorts of ideas. Obviously, Don't Stop Believin' and Stone in Love. All of those songs that are little stories that evolve and you can follow along. I think Together We Run is kind of an update on where everybody is today. Just a terrific song. Don't Give Up on Us is an instant classic. Again, the knock on the song is, it just sounds like Separate Ways. Okay. I understand that, but it's a great song. It should be on the radio. Radio stations across this country should be playing music from this album. As a little side note here, I'm back in whatever era. Now I get accused of living in the 80s or living, vicariously through my prior DJing, program directing, music directing life, right? So in the old days, we would get this album and we'd be like, okay, we're going to add 5 or 6 songs from this record to our currents format. And then we're going to give DJs discretion on top of it. They have the album, pick a track, listen to it and play it, right? And make sure you intro the track and say something about it, somewhat coherent. And those were the days, folks. This is that kind of record where you'd want to have control as the DJ and say, you know what? You heard this song yesterday. Let's play another track off of Freedom. Those were the glory days of radio. But anyway, Still Believe in You. This is a spacey ballad where you're going to get all kinds of great atmospherics. You got incredible vocals from Arnell, and you've got Neil Schon with his higher octave music guitar tone. If you remember, Neil did these albums back in the 90s that were very new agey, very smooth, jazzy, and he's got that sound here, but again, a little more intense, a little bit more passionate. great song. I mean, if you're a Journey fan and you like power ballads, because, you know, Journey's kind of famous for those, this record probably won't disappoint you. I mean, it's good stuff. You Got the Best of Me, I think, is an instant classic. Takes a little to get into it, but quite honestly, it's been out there for a little while, and there's nothing about the song I dislike, other than the fact that other people are like, oh, it's just, you know, it sounds like something else by them. Again, just not to go off on a tangent here, but Journey is supposed to sound like Journey. If Journey is sounding like the Foo Fighters, then I don't want to listen to Journey. It's pretty simple. Next song is Live to Love Again. I'm having trouble reading my own writing because I scribbled a lot. Another amazing adult contemporary power ballad, classical and orchestral influences. I'm thinking again, Jonathan Cain had his thumb on the scales here, moving things in certain directions. And then you had Narada and Neil adding a little bit of beef to the mix, you know what I'm saying? But all of this is just so well put together musically. Again, it's what I call soft rock bliss. Live to Love Again, Arnel Pineda singing as well as he has ever sung with this band. The Way We Used to Be is a song that came out last year. It has aged really, really well. Lyrically, the content is about, you know, trying to break free from the tyranny, whether that is in a relationship or that is a government. This song applies and has, again, aged really well. I like the song more now than I did when it came out. Real crunchy drum and bass on that song, and that keyboard intro at the beginning, which fools some people a little bit, thinking that they're going to hear Don't Stop Believin'. So just a great song. Come Away With Me is another classic AOR rocker, just great riffs, vocals, arrangement. The song's a little bit loosey-goosey production-wise. It goes off a bit. It's not as scripted and as highly polished as some of the other tracks, but I kind of like it. I like when the band gets that way, and I think that's more Neil Schon than anybody else, wanting to just kind of go off a little bit and not be so predictable. And I think that song does that really well. Afterglow. Afterglow is a song that I've had for a while, and I couldn't tell anybody about it because then I would have to be killed. But this is a super layered vocal arrangement, very majestic, very ethereal, featuring Dean Castronovo, who sounds amazing. And again, the whole point of Dean and Arnel at this stage, it helps you cope with the fact that Steve Perry is not in this band, right? And we know that both Arnel and Dean can still sing really, really well. And Arnel on this record tackles a lot of very difficult notes, way up there. In fact, on some of these songs, he's doing these little vocal parts, these little scat kind of things, where he's just in the stratosphere. And so he still can sing, despite what some people thought, including yours truly a couple of years ago. I thought he might be toast. But whatever happened, whatever the theory is, whether that's a vocal coach or whether it's psychology, Arnel is totally on his game. And Dean on Afterglow is spectacular. I might use the word spectacular too much in this particular video. Let It Rain is that super controversial jam session set to lyrics. Arnel's vocals are kind of buried in the mix to some degree. People are like, oh, this doesn't sound like Journey. I go, yeah, it sounds like Journey 1975. And most people are like, well, I wasn't into Journey and I don't like that era of Journey, so let's move on. Okay, so we'll move on, right? But for those of us who don't mind it, who like a little variety in the track listing, Let It Rain does that. And so does Holding On, which features some very Steve Perry-ish vocals from Arnel. Now, I'm contradicting myself, right? Because I've said in the past that Arnell is not exactly like Steve Perry. And I mean that. I'm just saying that the way they have Arnell sing on this particular song reminds me a lot of Steve Perry when Steve Perry was young. Okay. Doesn't mean vocally they're exactly the same. Arnell's singing voice is far different from that of Steve Perry's. Again, the criticism either way, he sounds too much like Steve Perry, or he doesn't sound enough like Steve Perry. He sounds like Arnell, and this is Journey in 2022 with Arnell singing, and overall, I think it works really well. All Day and All Night, this is kind of a bluesy rocker with a very unique sound musically. Again, Arnell singing his butt off. The song has kind of like this sparse rhythm section thing going on, and it's just nice and airy. You can hear all the instruments, and it's a very unique melody. This is something that someone had to be just fooling around, on bass or guitar or whatever, just kind of noodling and thinking, hey, this might work in a song, right? And it does. It's just a great song, great melody, interesting lyrics, and Arnell just blowing it away on that particular song. Don't Go. Don't Go sounds like an outtake from Raised on Radio to me. It almost reminds me of the Cars, the Boston-based band, Rick Ocasek, Benjamin Orr. It has this sort of chug-along rhythm to it, and it's so radio ready. Hence, that's why I probably thought of Raised on Radio. But just a great pop rock song, and it kicks along loud enough and boisterously. Is that a word? I don't know. I'm trying to think of different adjectives because I don't want to say spectacular again, but it's a great song. Don't Go. And great is probably overused too. United We Stand, I think, is an instant classic. It's kind of like a dark pop melody and has this sort of brooding undertone or overtone. It has a tone, right? And the more you listen to it, the more you think this is a great representation of what freedom this album sounds like. You got some very interesting background vocals throughout this record, which really beef it up, really give it its own flavor, its own sound. And that's probably Narada Michael Walden doing that, with help from Jonathan Cain and I'm sure Neil Sean in there. So Life Rolls On. We're up to track number 14, by the way. This is just a great song between the keyboards, which are very out in front, the vocals, the chord changes, which will throw you for a loop. The song has a slow beginning, and then it really kicks in, I don't know, a minute or 2 minutes into the song. I didn't time it out. But this harkens back to the days where songs would have like two parts to them, like a slow part, mid-tempo part, or a slow part and then a faster part. And this band obviously has a lot of experience with those kinds of records. When you think back to, say, Feeling That Way in Any Time, which was basically one song that was crunched together as two songs. Of course, you had to seg the songs back in the old days. You couldn't play one of those without the other. There's a rule, okay? This beat goes on into switch into glide, right? You have to do that. Or anyway, I'm dating myself. People probably don't even know what I'm talking about. Anyway, Life Rolls On is a spectacular song. It's really good. It's awesome. I'm really digging this album, right? And I'm running out of superlatives. Beautiful As You Are. Okay, this might be the song that some of these reviews I've been reading where they say, music just goes on for too long. These songs need to be, truncated. They need to find a producer to rein them in, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, I want to hear them untruncated, okay? And Beautiful As You Are, which is the last track on this record, is a very lengthy song. I think it clocks in at close to 8 minutes. It's over 7 minutes anyway. And it starts off with acoustic guitars, which is kind of unique for Neil Sean. I know he's Does he own an acoustic guitar? I'm sure he does, but um, I like the acoustics at the beginning, and then later on it goes electric. This is a great ballad, okay? And this is where maybe some of the complaints come in, because the ending is a bit crazy. It takes a little while for the song to end. You think it's going to end, and it's got, this big sort of live concert drum ending part. And then I think it kicks in again with some of the more middle parts to the song. And then it finally, I think, fades out or ends. But again, creative, right? So what if it's a long song? You're getting your money's worth. Look at it that way. And do you think like the top 40 station is going to be playing this? No, of course not. So these guys could have went on for 20 minutes and you would have said, oh, well, it's self-indulgent. Nobody wants to hear this stuff. Yeah, I do. I want to hear this stuff. So in any event, 15 songs, I think out of a rating of 10, I would give this album a very, very solid 9 out of 10. And for those of you who don't like Let It Rain or Holding On, which would be probably the other song that you might not like on this, I say variety is good. It's good for your playlist. It's good for your soul. It's good for an album. And I think Neil Sean, Jonathan Cain, and Arnell are hitting on all cylinders here with help from Randy Jackson on bass and Narada Michael Walden. Both those guys, I believe, were in the studio during the making of this record, which probably should have been released in the fall of 2020. But here we are in the summer of 2022, still waiting for that freedom, that complete freedom, and we still don't have it. So kudos to the boys. I think this is a great album. And for those of you who like all the old Journey stuff and won't touch this, I would give this a chance. I would just listen to it. And I think you're going to find that there's something on this for everybody. So that's my review. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and also Patreon. If you want to help me out, it's $1 a month, and it actually does support this channel when you donate to Patreon. And of course, as always, I will see you soon.